Hello and welcome to this episode of Wi-Fi Friends with me, Cameron, and my friend Jon. Hello, Jon.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Um, not that most people would have noticed. I don't know how many people would have really like, hey,
I don't look at our analytics,
I
you know.
actually, not intentionally. I'm not like intentionally being like, I'm not going to look at anything. I just never do. I feel like the fun of this podcast is doing it, and then I just put it out to put it out. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's already done. I'm gonna put it out now. Um, However, I will say that I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be podcasting. It has been a while, and I've missed it. I've missed talking to you, my friend. This is the primary way in which we communicate, which is a bit of a bummer, but also, it's kind of how we met, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought for this episode, for anyone who minds, we would just do a chill, free flow, like classic, what our old like Man on Fire podcasts used to be, where we just kind of talk about anything, because I'm in a bit of a weird headspace right now, and it's been a while since we've talked, so I don't really want to constrain my first proper conversation with you to being, what's your favorite theme park? So how have you been, friend? How have you been doing since we last chatted?
It feels like it's been so long.
I think it
It's
has.
yeah, I feel it's been like a month or
Yeah.
no, the last thing was probably October. Oh, was it October? I feel like we
God.
talked about Halloween.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Oh, yeah, we did. I remember talking about Halloween. I actually
Yeah,
do
so it
remember
wasn't
talking
that
about
long
Halloween.
actually. So
It's like a month. Like a month,
yeah, yeah.
maybe.
We've done worse.
Mm.
But no, it's
We've done a
I love
lot worse. We went.
yeah, we've done
We are the only people I know who were very close friends, and then there was no argument. There was no there was no like, oh, I hate you. There was no betrayal or anything. Just for whatever reason, we didn't talk for a full year. Like
yeah.
it was usually if you go, yeah, me and my friend Jon didn't talk for a whole year. There's like some reason, but we just didn't. I just think we were just both getting on with our lives, and then we were just
Well,
like, oh shit.
that's kind of the problem about living, across water,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
body of water,
Uh, I,
and when you don't see people all the time, it's like it's kind of hard to you have to make the effort to
mm.
communicate and make the time.
It's why I've made it my personal mission to get rid of all water.
Oh yeah.
I just hate water.
Water.
I'm drinking it right now with the sole purpose to destroy it. If I drink enough
Yeah.
of it.
That's a good plan, actually. It's smart.
Yeah.
But
Um,
no, so I love fall. I love sweater weather, but I
Sweater weather.
vehemently despise winter.
Really?
Because right when winter happens, that's when we all get sick.
Oh, that
Just
is
get
true.
sinus and mucus and drainage, and my wife loses her voice for a couple of weeks, and it's just the worst.
Oh my goodness. And is Chloe akin to that? Is she also getting
She
sick?
she is mostly her nose and like running nose and stuff like that. She hasn't been so bad. She's like off and on, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's just it's the worst.
I always imagine the first couple of years of having a kid, they're just constantly in a state of different sickness. They're just experiencing it all for the first time. So it's just like all at once. It's
Well,
like
the
running
problem is
nose
that
and
like it's not like they know what's going on. They don't know what's happening. So it's just they just feel weird and different, and so it makes them agitated.
Mm.
And normal things that are like, as an adult, you just kind of get used to feeling shitty some days.
Yeah, yeah,
You're like, oh, I'm like my body aches and like I have this cough and
yeah.
like whatever. But like for a kid, it's like the end of the world because they're like, my body's falling apart. And you want to just be like, you're fine, just stop. But it's like, no, you're experiencing this for the first time. Like, I can't really be upset at you.
Yeah, I think that's probably why kids are so much more impressionable, because it's like everything doesn't have an explanation. Literally, there is no explanation for anything until they're told.
Yeah.
So they will literally just feel. It's like if you cough, it means that I don't know, like a ghost just passed through you, and they're like, "Oh, okay." It's just anything they'll believe.
Yeah, right.
This is why I don't have a kid yet, because I need to get rid of all these
That's
urges.
why. That is the one reason.
I gotta get rid of all these urges to like lie to it all the time. Because they're so easy to lie to. You could lie to a kid so easily.
And then it's so easy to like, well, then that's the worst part though, is that you're like constantly on edge and you get comfortable. And then one time you say like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And she goes, die. And you're like, shit.
She goes into school like, my dad's going to die. What?
So it's like really weird because you get comfortable for a while and then you slip and say something. And then they're just like, oh yeah, man, fuck this shit.
Oh no, I have a little gangster on me.
Yeah. I'm gonna be it's gonna be so horrible having to go down to school.
Oh
right?
Man.
Because I'm gonna stroll in there, 5'6". You know, I'm not growing anymore. Let's be honest here.
Even after I've met you and we hung out, I still forget that you are not a tall man, because your pictures, you always seem like a tall man. Like, you're not tiny, but like you just seem
because I'm like
tall,
lanky.
you know? Yeah, so I feel like, because I'm like average size tallness, but I'm chubby. So I feel like if I lost weight, I just naturally grow higher. That's just how I thought it worked.
And I just like hope that I'm gonna be strolling in there, you know, like looking like garbage. I mean, walking in there, they're like, "Oh, your daughter punched this kid in the face." So I'm gonna be like, "What'd the kid do? Did he deserve to get punched in the face?"
Because I know when Chloe punches me in the face, I deserved it.
I deserve it. She said a bad word, but like on a scale of 1 to 10, come on, Teach, come on. Like, how bad was it, really? Did the situation call for a fuck? Sometimes it calls for a fuck.
Yeah, sometimes you get angry and you gotta just throw out a word there sometimes, you know? Just to get rid of that anger inside you, you know?
Yeah, man. You know?
I think that, like, it's funny to me, the idea that, you know, when, you know, you might go to school and like for Chloe, it's like parents' evening and stuff. And Jenny's sneaking up behind me trying to do something. You might go to school one day for Chloe for like parents' evening or something, and you could like see a kid in the yard Naruto running, and you as a dad can be like, "Yeah, I understand what that means."
Oh, that's the greatest thing right now. As I tell people, I'm just like, when she gets to like 20, I'll still be like 40.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I actually have young parents myself. I have pretty young parents as well, and it was always interesting to be like, you know, like my dad would like, you know, he'd watch Star Trek with me and stuff, and he would watch shows that, you know, we would be watching as kids with me, and other people's parents would just be like, I don't understand what you're doing, you know. Yeah. But then my dad did. I got older, and then my dad got older, and now he's become like classic old man dad.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I don't understand any of these references. And like, even things I know for a fact we watched together when I was a kid, he still doesn't get it because he's just, it's left his mind. He's just become an old man. So it's like, oh, all this young shit needs to leave. Like, yeah. So maybe you'll get to a day where you're just like, who's Batman? I don't know who's Batman.
Oh, the worst part is like trying to keep up with stuff now still even. Because like my wife has 2 nieces. And so I was like, hey guys, like Fortnite, right?
Fortnite, right? Question mark is the best.
One of them was just like, yeah, Fortnite's stupid, and I'm like, what? What? Already?
Oh goodness, my niece recently was like, Cam, do you have like a one of those things that you can spin, like a Wheel of Fortune type wheel, you know? And I was like, no, I don't really have one, but I'm sure we can make one easily. Like, we can figure it out and we can get it somewhere. Like, I do actually have one, but it's like a shot one. And I don't think I want to give, like, a kid, like, shot roulette. So, so we're like, yeah, we can figure out, what are you going to use it for? And she was like, well, basically, I want to make a challenge video with my friend where, like, we put challenges on each of the things and spin it. And, like, one of them is, like, tase each other. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, I saw it in a YouTube video. And I was like, I don't want to ask, who the YouTube video was because it might be Jake Paul, and if it is, I'm gonna have to jump out of the window.
Oh gosh.
So like I'm only 23, and I'm already being like, yep, this is the thing. This is the thing that I'm gonna be like. These
so many things that I'm just like, they're like, look at this. This is person's the most popular streamer in the world. I'm like, who are they?
Oh my god, yeah. Like people go Ninja. I'm like, yeah, the feudal Japanese warriors. They're like, no,
Yeah,
do you not watch Ninja?
And I'm like, no, I don't really like. Oh, well, this is also my problem is that I get, and you've known this about me forever, because you'll just randomly see on my timeline, whatever, that I'll start talking about one specific thing for like a couple months.
Yeah.
And then I'll move to something else. Like I get into moods.
Yeah, totally.
Ebbs and flows a lot where like I get obsessed with one thing.
I feel like the best way to describe it is like, most people have like they're like fans of a lot of things, but they're really die-hard fans of a couple of things, at the same time. Like mine are like Star Trek, Star Wars, I really like, DC Comics and stuff, and I've always kind of been those. And every so often a new one will come along. Whereas you're just the biggest fan in the world of one thing for a month, and then you move on to like the biggest fan in the world. Like I remember like you were like really into something like last month or something, and I was like, oh, I'm glad John's enjoying that. And then like I didn't see your feed for a while. I was dealing with shit, and then I looked up and I was like, oh shit, John is like the biggest Critical Role fan in the world right now.
Yes.
Like, I don't know where that came from. Like, I'm glad he's enjoying it. And, like, I don't know it myself, but I do love D&D. I play D&D, so, like, there's a new fandom we could talk about, I guess.
So, yeah, that was what I was thinking about before we started talking, was, like, because my wife is like, do you even do video game stuff anymore? And I'm like, yeah, no, I do. Just been a while. She's like, okay, because all you watch is like Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I don't even know, like, because I had watched a couple episodes of Critical Role way like back when I worked at Disney.
Okay.
It would be my like when I had YouTube Red, I'd download the video and then I'd listen to it as I drive.
Oh, like a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I kind of stopped whatever because this is like in the first campaign.
Okay.
Of the show, whatever. So the first kind of large season, whatever. It's like 100-something episodes. So
yeah,
calling it a season.
I think my friend told me that because he's been trying to get me into it. He's actually my DM, and he was saying how like they did one big thing. Oh, Jenny, I gotta mention this now. I said he's my DM, and Jen just burst into laughter.
Sounds like a situation going on.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, like he said that like they did like a big first thing, like a couple, loads and loads of episodes, and then they like almost like started afresh, not like afresh, but they were like you can start listening after that first thing, and it, you get caught up and stuff. So I kind of have an understanding of the show.
Then recently, I don't know why, it was just like it randomly like popped up, I guess, and I was like, you know what, I'll start campaign 2 because that's the most recent like story arc or story thing. It's set like hundreds of years after the end of the first campaign.
Yeah.
And so I started it, and I don't know what about watching it this time, but like, and then I think also part of it is that the first campaign started like in media res, dropping out some terminology here.
Okay, that's
in the middle of a story.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. I see what you're saying.
Basically, like it's already started. They've already met each other. They already know who each other are. While campaign 2 starts with they all meet in a tavern.
Yeah, classic start of a D&D campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, everyone is drinking, and a creepy guy brings you all together.
Yeah, and so I just started from there, and I just got swept in, and I'm like 30-something. There's like 40-something episodes out now, and I've gotten like almost caught up.
Okay, I want to talk about D&D because that is something that like we both do but have not talked about. We're both into and we've not talked about ever before. But I do want to first ask you, like, it's such like talk to you about the fact of like you're 30 episodes into the series now and you've got loads and loads to go. I love that when you find something that is like really, really good and you check how many episodes and you've got like 60 episodes of it. And it's just like, yes, this is the new thing that I'm watching now.
Well, and that's the thing is that it's like, it's ongoing. So like, it's one of those things where I looked at it and I was like, I can catch up.
Yeah. Oh man,
Which is weird because they're like 4-hour episodes, so it's like
I think the thing with me
maybe
is
like 2 a day, maybe.
Yeah, the thing is like with watching weekly, like I have shows that I watch weekly, but sometimes I fall out of it if it's not like amazing, you know. Like it's not to say that I don't like the show if I fall out of it. It's just like I was keeping up with it, and then like something happened one week, and then something happened the next week, and this is like, oh, now I've got 2 shows to watch. But when you've
me
got
with
something...
every DC CW show.
Exactly, like we're so behind on Flash and Supergirl, and like I'm genuinely excited for the crossover because I love Batwoman, but I've just not put the time in to like catch up or anything. But like when you've got a show that is like a couple of years old, you know, or like a YouTube channel where you've never seen any of their videos and you can like start from the beginning, it's like it's like a relief because there's no pressure. You're not like, you know, you're so behind that you're like, I'll just catch up, you know, when I can. You don't have to worry. And then you end up watching it way more than you would if it was coming out weekly because you're just like, oh, just next episode. It's like binging, but knowing that when you catch up, you're still gonna be able to watch. You're not gonna be like, exactly, sad at the end. Okay, D&D. First of all, before, because you did participate in a D&D game, didn't you, recently?
I DM'd.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. But I first want to know, what was it that, like, when did you start getting into D&D? Was it Critical Role or was it something before that?
So D&D's always been one of those things that's like been like there, you know, that you always hear about and that people talk about, but usually it's referred to as like, so you guys like nerdy shit. This is like that deep nerdy shit.
Yeah.
This is like when you go to the drug dealer for the first time and they're like, you don't want to try that yet.
Like, hey man, can I have my weed? Yeah, you can have your weed, but if you feel like it, I've got some coke. And you're like, nah, dude, I'm good. Nah. I'm good with weed, dude.
Exactly. That is the best analogy I can think of. And so, like, I've always heard, and I think recently, in the last couple of years, it's starting to get more and more, I won't say mainstream, because it's always been, but it's more like, hey, Joe Manganiello's, like, doing a D&D clothing line. And, like, so it's been more, and it's just one of those things where I was like, I wanted to do it because it sounds like a mixture of all the types of things I like.
Yeah.
The kind of like role play aspect, the improv, the storytelling. So, and it was just Critical Role kind of was an easy like, hey, here it is. It's voice actors. It's people who are very good at what they do, not just some randos. You know, and everyone talked about it with such reverence that it was one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I'm driving. Why don't I just try it out? I can watch it, don't have to try to play it, and just see if I understand or get the gist of what it's all about. And
then it was just like, I mean, that's the thing that I think a lot of people have similar stories to you, and like mine is very similar in that, like you, like when I started getting into comics and getting into more things and watching YouTube videos about anime, and I just kind of slowly becoming more versed in like geek culture, I guess you could say, even though that sounds horrible to say. But like, it's just like one of those things, like you said, where you hear about it and you're like, oh, D&D, and then you keep thinking, oh, the first thing a lot of people think when they hear D&D, including myself, is like, oh, I could totally do that. You know, I could DM a game right now, you know, without knowing any of the rules, without even participating in a D&D match or watching anything. You just go, oh yeah, I could do that, because it just seems so simple on paper. It's like there's a story, you make up, you improv, you know, and then your players roll and that decides. So like you always have like these little like super duper homebrew games where you've got none of the books, you've got none of the campaigns, you've not thought about what you're gonna do. And then you try it out with your friends, and some of them are like not into it and stuff. But like, what really got me into like thinking about actually playing it properly and playing the actual, you know, game was just my version of Critical Role was the Yogscast, which is a YouTube channel for people who don't know. They started doing D&D, Call of Cthulhu, RPG, Star Wars, like all these different, like basically D&D games, but like some of them are clones.
Tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, that's the actual way to put it. I didn't know why I couldn't think of the name, but like they started doing them and really, like Critical Role, putting effort and treating it with reverence and being like, this can be a really fun way to tell a story, because it is like, it's a game, but it's also a storytelling device. And like they would do campaigns where they all wore costumes and there was a set, and they had an animator because the Yogscast have a bunch of different branches and they have some animators. So the animators would come in and they would take the best parts of the series and they would cut to animation. So as the DM is describing something, it would like you'd see a scene animated, and it was just so fun because what I liked about it was that the players were playing by the rules, but they also weren't taking everything so seriously. And before I watched that, I thought that D&D had to be like, like every other board game where it's like you play by the rules and you have to try and win and stuff. But what I realized was like most people like D&D, when you're playing by the rules, you're not screwing around, but also you are still treating it with fun and with excitement and kind of you're trying to glean enjoyment out of it, not just like how many monsters can I kill, how powerful can I become. Like when I level up in a video game, I'm like, yay, I've leveled up, let me check my skills. But like when I level up in D&D, I'm like, okay, that's cool, but when can I meet the next NPC? When can I meet the next like interesting character or do the next interesting thing? And that's when I really started being like, okay, I want to play D&D. But then it wasn't until because I could never be a DM. I've always wanted to DM like a Star Wars game because I feel like I have a lot of knowledge of that. But with D&D, I don't know the first thing about Neverwinter. I don't know the first thing about all the places and stuff.
See, that's the thing is like what worried me a lot at first was being like, I don't know the lore.
Yeah.
I don't know the history. And then, like, watching Critical Role, someone was I just, like, read a thing where they're just like, yeah, that's all made up. Like, they take bits and pieces from Dungeons & Dragons, like, lore and, like, the gods and stuff like that. But, like, I'm like, wait a minute, all this, what do you mean it's all made up? Like, these cities and these things, he's like, hey, it just makes up everything. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, ultimately, even if you did go, by the book, no improv, which would be the most boring game of D&D ever, by the way. But if you did no improv, it's still technically all made up. There's no such thing as dragons.
And then it's great because, like, so I'd been really wanting to do it, whatever. And my wife was like, you know what, you should just like, just try it. Like, she's like, I'll play. I'm sure we can maybe get someone else or whatever. And she's like, and so they're the little starter set.
Okay.
That's like $20.
Yeah.
It gives you one adventure, of a small truncated rule book, a set of dice, and 5 pre-generated characters.
Okay.
And so I was just reading and studying this like thing, and I was like, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought it would be. And it's funny because like we played a game, and it was like me, I was DMing, and then it was my wife and one of her brothers.
Okay.
And so we're just doing it, and instantly, like the first encounter that happens, they totally do something that I was not prepared for. So I'm like, oh shit, okay, I guess you could use a sleep spell right now and just completely knock out these goblins that I had ready to fight you.
Yeah, and you had like paper of stuff that they could do and say, and you're just like, oh, I gotta burn this all now.
I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm like, great, they want to interrogate this goblin. I need to do a quick figure out what his personality, like just do a quick like, all right, is he going to be a sneezy little shit, or like what is he going to be? And it was just so much fun doing that improv and just kind of getting to lean into like, all right, I'm just going to be fucking, all right, let's do this, let's go.
That's awesome. I love it. Like, it's funny because it's like two different perspectives, because you heard about the game and you were like, oh yeah, I want to like, create the world, I want to, do the improv and stuff. But I just wanted to play. Like I think the one of the most exciting things for me was the idea of like that I didn't know anything about the lore. Being someone who like reads comics and watches movies again and again and again, you get accustomed to knowing everything there is about Batman. Yeah. Like when you read new comics, you have to get out of your head because part of you is always like, does this line up? You know, like you have to kind of put that aside.
Oh, this reminds me of that other story. That
yeah. And a lot of comic book writers sometimes do that too much, where they're just almost remaking already existing Civil War 2, you know, Armored Wars 2. Like, it's like, come on. But with D&D, because I knew nothing about the lore of D&D and what Wizards of the Coast had like created and stuff, it was like, I want to be a player and I want to just have as much knowledge as my character has, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to... So it's cool that like we both got into it in completely different ways.
Well, that thing is, I wanted to... At first I was like, oh, maybe I can... Because there's like Roll D20, which is an online thing, where you can kind of like play. And I was like, I want to play D&D. But I don't know anyone who plays it. I don't know how to. And I was kind of like, I mean, I guess I could Dungeon Master, but like, I don't know. I'm worried. I feel like it's too much work. You know, I'm like, it's so much you'd have to do. And someone's like, it's not that hard. And I was like, are you sure? They're like, no, you should just look at it. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And I thought being a DM, I would lose that aspect of being a player.
Yeah.
Where you just get to like have fun. But then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm playing literally everyone else. So like I do still, and then also getting to play as the bad guys, I kind of think like, all right, well, I can't really think as, you know, John, who's not trying to be too harsh on these people. I need to think about as like Clark the Bugbear. So like, sorry guys, I'm going after this downed friend you've got right here and trying to kill him.
Sorry, did you just say your bugbear was named Clark?
Clark.
Okay, I thought you give your bugbear a completely normal name. This is the bugbear Greg. He's just like, hello, I am Greg. It's like completely normal name. No,
it's like, yo, what up? My name's Greg. I'm gonna kill you people and eat your fucking faces.
A funny story, actually. We were doing a campaign recently, and my DM, we met a dragon halfway through the campaign, and my DM's like, I am the dragon, you know, and he's talking like that. And then later on in the game, we meet a necromancer, and we're like, oh shit, it's a necromancer, and he's like, hello, I am the necromancer. And I'm like, oh look, it's the dragon again, like making fun of him for doing the same voice. And he goes, all right, yo, what up? I'm a necromancer. And I was like, oh no. So the whole fucking encounter, the necromancer was talking like a white rapper, and I was like, I can't do this. Yeah.
Hey, yo, guys, how's it going? We're gonna play some cool games today. Okay.
It was like Vanilla Ice was raising the dead. But yeah, so how did the campaign turn out then? How did did it go for like a long time?
So we had one session. I want to say it was probably 3 or 4 hours.
Oh wow, cool.
So we got through the first kind of encounter and our first cave. So we were playing, for anyone that's interested, the Lost Mines of Phandelver.
Oh, I do not know what that is. Although it's not surprising. It's like there's so much content. There's very little crossover.
Yeah, this is just part of the starter set.
I see.
So it has about like 4 different parts.
Oh, cool.
So we went through the first part, which is kind of like a goblin ambush, and then you go through the goblin's hideout and wipe them out as you head into the town of Phandalin.
Oh, wow.
So right now I'm in the process of preparing the town. Which is a lot more to prepare than...
Yeah, well...
Because I'm like, oh, here are the different shops. Here are the different NPCs. Here are all the people that have different quest lines that you're gonna maybe want to go to.
Yeah, and that's the thing that maybe is like... It's the thing that is like, I need a little bit more time before I think I can do a DM, because it's like... I want to let the players do whatever they want to do. You want to do that, you know, when you're running a game. You want to be like, create a world in which they feel like they can do whatever, but also the more variables, the more they maybe can do, the more you have to improv, and the more you have to be like, okay, well, who's this random shop owner? You know, what is his backstory? Has he got a wife, kids? Like, has he got an important dad? Like, it's just so much. And
that's the great thing about, like, at least about this set right now. I'm not sure if the other books are this detailed, but it's basically just like, all right, here's part 2. Here are the places in town that they're most likely to go to. Here are the names. And then it just like, it gives brief descriptions, just kind of like basic stuff. But I've also been watching a lot of like DM tips and like
that classic John, I am the biggest fan of D&D right now thing.
Yeah, exactly, and reading articles and stuff. And it's just one of those things where like you think it's like super complicated, but then the more experienced people you hear talk about it, the more you realize that it's like, oh, this can be very simple.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, like it's cool because like as a player, you always feel like the DM is magic. You know, it's just because I mean, if they're a good DM, there's bad DMs. Obviously, I've only ever really played with properly with the one guy, so like, and he's really good. But like, I imagine there are people who are like, you know, constantly like, oh, so you know, what's your name? And then he like flips through the book slowly flips through the book, and he's like looking up the name and stuff, and it's just like, dude, just make something up. Like it doesn't
Or
have to
basically
be
like every TV show version of D&D,
oh yeah.
which are the worst. That's also probably another reason why I wasn't super interested to play it, because every time I saw D&D, it was like, well, all right, you see a dragon, what do you do?
I think the best I've seen, and this is obviously really everyone's going to say this because it's like probably the one of the most popular, is Stranger Things. Like Stranger Things felt exciting to me, like and the way they weave it into the story.
Communities.
Oh yes, I mean that was probably the earliest
good,
example of like this is an exciting game. You know, like you could tell that Dan Harmon like had played D&D and that he enjoyed it and he knew what was fun about it, but still knew how to like manipulate it. Because have you heard of the term murder hobo?
Yes.
Okay, so like I didn't know what that was when I started playing with this current group, but the DM was like, oh, you know, Community, you know Pierce in that game, and I was like, yeah, and he goes, that's what a murder hobo is, and I go, oh, okay. Like it's just such a good example of D&D. But like, yeah, so I was personally I was like excited about it. I wanted to play it, but like, so you try with friends and nobody knew what they were doing, and then you try with you always. I mean, this is classic like us generation. You know, our generation is like how far can I take this without having to spend money? You know, like how much can I do this with PDFs and watching YouTube videos? And then eventually I'm like, I think this game is just you know, not interesting. Just complicated enough that I think it needs to be something that is like bought. You know, there needs to be some kind of like, you know, purchase going on here. So then I was in work. I was working at the Great Hall for about a year at this point, and you know, you kind of like slowly get to know everyone in work when you work there. So like after a year, I'd kind of know everyone, and I was kind of friends with everyone. And this one guy, Will, came up to me. He was like, "Cam, you're like into, you know, games and comics and movies and stuff, and like I've been looking for some new players for the D&D game we've got here, and it's got like a couple of people from work and a couple of people who are the DM's friends and stuff." So I was like, "Yeah, I'll try it out. I'll turn up to a game." And they were halfway through a big adventure called The Curse of Strahd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a huge adventure, really complicated, like really like lore heavy adventure. And he's like, I know it's going to be like confusing for you. You're not going to understand a lot of things, but I was wondering if you just wanted to try it out. And I was like, yeah, totally, man. I'm really up for that. So he's like, make a character, and he's explaining like what characters are already part of the adventure. And I realized that they've kind of got, you know, one of everyone they need. They've got a healer, they've got a, you know, a magic user, they've got a barbarian, they've kind of got everything they need. And I also was worried that I didn't want to choose a character that was going to be super important because I'd never played it before, so I didn't want to, you know, mess with these guys' campaign. They've been playing for like a year at this point. So I'm like, perfect choice, I just choose a bard. I'm like, if I'm a bard, right, like, if I'm doing badly, it's just they're playing without me. It doesn't matter. Like, but if I do well, it's like kind of fun. And I felt like it was the best position to be like, you know, I can crack jokes when everyone else is playing the game because I don't understand it yet. I can just enjoy myself cracking jokes and, you know, singing songs and stuff, and it won't be like pressure to be like, you know, why aren't you healing us? You're the healer, you know. It's just like, well, you're the bard, what do you expect?
Yeah.
So I remember I was like, I'm making a bard, and I made this tabaxi, which is like a cat race.
Yeah.
And then I like make him, and I call him Garfield, like just like, you know, like I'm not taking it too seriously. And so Will explains at the beginning of the game that everyone's in this tavern, classic D&D, and they see in the corner of the room there is an incredibly hungover Tabaxi, just like with his hat in front of his eyes, trying to keep the sun out of his eyes, trying to like wake up, and he's been drinking there all night. And like that was my introduction to the group, so it wasn't like just like I said, I knew as much as my character knew. I wasn't part of this adventuring group, and neither was my character. He was just kind of there. And it was the perfect introduction, because I kind of just like, I was the comic relief for a while. And then the more games I turned up to, the more I played, the more I understood the game. My character became more integrated into the story. And then it gets to a point now where it's like, it doesn't matter that you don't know stuff. Like, I think D&D can be intimidating to a lot of people, because it's like, I don't get the lore, I don't understand, the world and stuff. But like, it was so good because like, my character didn't get the lore, my character didn't understand the world. He was just a performer who just got roped into this thing, just like I was just a random player that got roped into the group.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the idea of the freedom, the idea that the DM is like, he has a plan for something, but like, you can kind of just do whatever you want, and it's, you get these scenarios where it's so fun. Like, Will, the guy who DMs my games, is very, I mean, he's been DM for a while, so like he's just good at it. But like, even if you're not like been DM for a while, if you just like the game and you want the players to have fun, you can do really fun things. So like, there's a character called Rackham. And he just told me before the game, he was like, oh, your grandfather's name is Rackham, by the way. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, he's just my grandfather. Yeah. I doubt that'll come up. And then we're playing the game, the first game, and I'm just kind of going along. And then somebody mentions to one of the other members of the party, like, oh, Rackham sent you a letter. And then the player goes, oh, Rackham, yeah, he sent me a letter, let me see it. And I go, oh, you know Rackham? And they're like, yeah, we met him a couple of adventures ago. And I'm like, oh, he's my grandfather. And it's just like this cool, like, the DM didn't have to do that. He didn't have to put me into the story like that. But it's just this cool, and then you slowly, without even realizing it, you get so invested that, like, at one point my character died, quote unquote. He didn't die, but he, like, kind of died.
You went unconscious, like, basically?
No, he didn't go unconscious. He like actually like he died. They had to bring me back from the death, like through magic shit.
Yeah.
But I remember the game. It was like my third game, and it was the first game where I was actually like, it was only me and one other person, because the group kind of like fluctuates between different people depending on who's free. So it was me and one other person. I barely knew this guy, but we'd played together. So, and then at the end of the game, I was gonna say spoilers, but like, who was gonna know? By the end of the game,
spoilers for my homebrew.
We've been trying to escape Strahd's castle. We're there way too early for Curse of Strahd. We're there like before we're ready to go to Strahd's castle, which is called Ravenloft. So we're in Ravenloft. We're fighting to get out. We split up, and he's with these dragons because he's Dragonborn, so he's speaking to them, and they're Strahd's dragons. He's trying to convince them to let us go. I'm fighting actual Strahd, like Strahd. I'm not fighting him, but I'm like running away. He's like trying to kill me, and I'm like jumping around as a tabaxi trying to escape. So, and it's going like this, like kind of like the community game where he asks me what I'm doing, and he negotiates with me, and then he'll ask the other player, and it's like we're both in different rooms. We're in the same room playing, but our characters in different rooms, so we can't like interact together. We can't play together. I finally get to the room he's in, and the dragon he's been talking to has been talking about how like Strahd will, you should come with us and you should serve us. So I get to the room, and we're literally next to the door, and this other character, his name was Bryce. This other player, sorry. Bryce is like, the dragon turns to him and is like, you need to join us. And I run up to Bryce as my tabaxi, and I'm like, Bryce, we gotta go. This is it. This is the only opportunity. And Bryce turns to me in real life, and he looks at me and he goes, I cast Flame Hands. And I'm like, no! And he fucking kills me, my own teammate. But it was the coolest shit ever. Even though I died, it was like the most real shit ever, because he like turned to me in real life and he was like, I'm gonna betray you now for Strahd, And it's like, that was like the first moment where I was like, oh, this is such a good storytelling tool. Because not only did I think this guy was my friend because we were in the same group, but I thought this guy was my friend because we were sitting in the same room playing the same game together. And it was just, it's such a big impact on me. And like, ever since then, Bryce has like been playing a different character, but there's always been that idea of the character that he played when he betrayed me is out there somewhere in the world, and he's gonna come back someday, and I'm gonna have to face him again as like, you betrayed me. And it was so cool because then in the next game I had to go to the game, and all the rest of the people were there, and I just been brought back to life. And they were like, what happened? Like, Rackham had to bring me back from life, but it's like, why did Rackham bring you back to life? How did you die? And I'm like, that guy that was like helping us, he's a dick. Like, so I don't know, man. It was such an eye-opening experience of like, it's not just a game, it's not just like a board game, it's not like a who can win, how many monsters can you kill, and like. It would be really cool if we could somehow work it out. Because D&D Beyond, like you mentioned it, and like a lot of people, even Will has run games on it. So I think it would be an interesting way, because like, again, it's not like we can anytime soon hook up and play D&D next to each other. But it would be cool to if you get to a point
video
where
chat going.
Yeah, if you get to a point where you're confident enough, you could like run a game, and we could bring in like Jack Thomas and Jenny and stuff. And
I would just have to. I think I'd have to make like a one shot.
Yeah.
Make a one shot that's like tailored kind of towards.
Everyone's got dumb voices.
Yeah, that was in like Naruto.
That was the thing I was going to ask you as well. Because obviously you were playing with your wife and her brother. Did anyone do voices for the characters and stuff?
So not really.
Okay.
It took a little bit to get into the role playing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, all right, I'm cool. Yeah, no, I'm good. Let's just. And also the thing is that the story, that the part at least that we were in the story, didn't really entail a lot, because you're already on a mission. Turns out the people that you're hired for were kidnapped, so you're basically going to try and save them.
I get you.
So it's not like you're finding a lot of NPCs. They really only talk to like the goblin that they kidnapped, the human warrior Sildar Hallwinter, who they find in the cave, who is escorting this other guy, whatever, and like the big boss of that cave, whatever. So it's like not really a lot of opportunities. So I'm curious to see how being in the town and being like, all right, we have to go to a tavern, and like we have to go to like these stores to return these supplies and stuff, and like seeing if that opens up opportunities more.
Yeah, you get players sometimes who are just like quiet during those sections, which is fine. Like it's not like they're not enjoying themselves. They just want to get to the fight, and But like that's where I love. Like, do you do voices then as the DM? Do you like try to give different characters
100%.
voices? Yeah, I thought so.
Because like the goblin, I'm crouching over, and I'm like a little snivelly, like, and then Sildar, and like, the great thing was like the book gave me like, all right, he's like this 50-year-old, seasoned vet. He's like a good guy, and I'm like, that sounds boring. I'm gonna turn him to like Captain Quark from Ratchet and Clank.
A giant fucking chin.
Where he's like super full of himself because he has years of experience, and and literally they come and they save him from these goblins, and he's like, oh well, thanks for the help. I had it, but I do appreciate it. And they instantly are just like, oh, this guy's an asshole. We hate him.
Yeah, it's so good because like I think it's fun because when I play, my Tabaxi has a very distinct voice. He's kind of like my bad impression of Dexter's Laboratory. You know? Like I'm trying to give him like a, and it's fun because me and this other player, who also I work with, this guy's named Lynn. We both like really get into the characters, and we do the voices and stuff. And then you get new players and also players who played for a while, but they just don't fancy doing voices and role playing. So you get like people going, yeah, like a turtle, like is it a wordle? I can't remember what race it is, but you can be this like race.
Turtle, I think. Right?
Yeah, turtle. So there's a girl in our group who's a turtle, and she's like, yeah, I thought I'd just go over here and do this, and I'm like, oh really? Is that true? Like it's completely off, all over the place, but it kind of like adds to the enjoyment for me because it's kind of that thing. I mean, I love being the center of attention. You know the type of person I am. So like when it's going in order, when we've all rolled for initiative, and it's actually we're taking turns instead of it's just a free for all. It'll go, and then they'll see that the goals are getting closer and closer to me, and everyone starts going, "Oh no, here we go!" And I'm like, "Hello, it's me!" Like, it's just so fun. Like I love
one thing I love that, like, there is that aspect of like if you want to, you can get fully into it. But
Mm.
then there's the aspect of if you get just bad dice rolls, that can kind of change how your character like works,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Because say
100%.
you're like this super cool, dope, like barbarian guy, but you keep on failing all of your attacks, you're gonna
Mm.
start to look like a doofus because you're just swinging and missing. Like there's this, it was supposed to be just a simple, like they're going up this stream, looking through the castle or the cave, whatever.
Mm.
And there's a goblin on a bridge, and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna need you to make a perception check because I'm hoping that they'll do a perception check, see the goblin, kill it before it warns everyone. I'm like, all right, whatever, this should be fine. They fail the check. So the goblin warns everybody, turns on this, like, basically releases a flood into the like chamber that they're in, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna need you guys to make other checks. My wife, a natural one. But her brother made a high enough check, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna say that because his roll was so high, that he was able to stick his feet like in the dirt, whatever, and like hold you and keep you both like in place as the water rushes past you, whatever. And I was like, oh great, this could have gone super smoothly, but because of their rolls, it just spiraled out of control quickly.
Yeah, I love it when it does change your character, because like I remember like my when I first made Garfield, he was gonna be like the smooth talking bard, he's gonna be a super smooth talking bard. He's gonna be able to talk his way out of everything. I poured points into charisma, and I like got rid of like a bunch of points in like strength, and I was like really weak and not very dexterous, even though I was a cat. So I was like, the first like interaction with an NPC was this woman who wasn't on great terms with the group, but I was like, I'm going to smooth this over, and I roll like a critical fail, and I like completely offend her, and like she's really angry at me, and then the group sees me and my character, just because of that dice roll, as this wild card. So then naturally I'm like, well, I guess I'm a wild card now. So that one dice roll informed the whole character, and from then on, Garfield was just this guy who would just say whatever he's thinking, even if it was a detriment. Because it's like, that was such a good moment. It caused such a fun like reputation thing. And then these dice rolls, like, even though you don't have control over them, they can be more exciting. They can be more fun and exciting, and they can change your own idea of what your character could be. Like another game my last game I was playing with all new players. No one had played before. So Will brought me in and was like, "Hey, can you make a level 1 character and just be there so that if the players are like nervous or they don't like talking to NPCs because they don't know what D&D is, you can just take the reins, you can just do it." So it was me and like a bunch of other people that never played D&D, and I made a new character, and I wanted it to be like Gandhi, like peace and love, like he was just like the most peaceful guy
chillest
ever.
Guy.
Yeah, he was a wizard, and I gave him all these spells that were like they didn't do much damage, but they like held enemies in place. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be the one who holds all the enemies in place and stuff. So I'm this old man wizard. I'm like a 30-year-old Aarakocra, which is like the age that they die at, basically, like the oldest you can be as an Aarakocra. And the first thing we do is these skeletons attack our cart. And I jump out of the cart, and I try to like use Mage Hand to hold one of them in place and try to talk to them. The Mage Hand fails. I do nothing. The skeleton shoots me in the like knee, brings me down. So then I get my stick and I just beat him to death. So then this peaceful character, based on a roll, I was like, well, I guess he's gonna beat all these skeletons to death now. It was just completely changed everything I was gonna do. So it can be really fun, like you said, like it's. I just love the storytelling aspect of it. And you play with some players, and you'll get this if you DM a bunch of games. Players who want to be the best at D&D, like they want to choose the exact spell, the exact weapons. They want to be the best character. They don't care about the story of it. They just want to make the powerful character, which is fine. It's a way to play the game. But I love going up to those players and just doing random things with them, and then it's like, what are you doing? This isn't gonna go. So like we found like something really valuable, but it was off. It was like the super valuable thing, and it contained like these awesome spells and stuff, but it was created using like a dead friend of my character. So this player was like, we got to take it. Like, it's really valuable. It'll give us good stats. And I was like, my character takes it and he throws it into the fire. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, my character wouldn't want to use that. It's made from his dead friend. And he's like, but it's really good stats. Like, it's cool. I just love the dynamic that the game gives you, because you can't get that with a video game, I don't think. Not truly. Yeah. You can't get a video game yet where it has that kind of... You really care about... You can make decisions of all kinds, like of every single kind. I mean, you can. There's like D&D games that I mean, I don't know if this would be fun, but you can even get into a D&D game where you play as like a baker or like a merchant, and the whole game is like, oh, someone comes to your shop, roll for charisma, see if you can sell them something. It's just like, what? But it'll work. I don't know if it'll be fun.
Well, the thing is that it's the only real like true collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
Because ideally, depending on the type of group you have, obviously, every player is writing their story for their character as the game is going. So you have all these different people who are all creating a story at the same time together, and one person's story might be this revenge-fueled quest where they're trying to murder this demon, while the other person is just kind of hanging around and he just wants to adventure because he's never been out of his town. And so he's having a grand old time.
Yeah. There was a, speaking of that, this is very on brand for us. I haven't watched any of it because apparently it's a bit of a mess, but I heard someone made an anime that is basically, the anime is based on all the D&D campaigns he's had. And so he made this anime, it's a long running anime, but it's the most jarring, confusing thing because each, arc is a D&D campaign. Every time the arc ends, sometimes the next arc there will be like characters just missing, and then new characters will be there, and the show never explains it because it's all in universe, but you can clearly tell that like players left and players joined and players changed their character. But I thought that was such an interesting idea of like, because I love it, Yogscast and SourceFed did it, and obviously I haven't seen much of Critical Role, but like they're very successful with it, and there's one called The Adventure Zone, I think, and there are all these big D&D like podcasts and YouTube shows where they broadcast their D&D, and it is really fun to watch. I mean, I will tune in every time the Yogscast do one, no matter what tabletop RPG it is, because I just love their creativeness and the way they do the characters and stuff. But it's funny to think of taking it a next step and actually making the campaigns into a fictional piece of work.
Yeah.
I don't know if it translates as well. And that kind of gives more points into D&D, because it's like, well, if it doesn't translate very well, it means that D&D is the best way to tell that kind of story, I think.
Yeah.
Geez, I mean, we kind of talked about D&D for this podcast.
I know, that kind of...
I just really want to talk to you about it, because I saw you posting it, and we weren't doing podcasts at that point. And I was like, man... I have not, like, it was the one thing that I had not talked to you about, like, that we were both apparently into. I just didn't know that you were into D&D. So we got to get that game going, I think. I think that could be a fun...
Yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun to, like,
if we
once a month.
It, we could put it on Wi-Fi, Okay, everything is content. I don't live my life unless it's content.
That is literally... That's funny, because that's a show, though, that Critical Role does. It's called Everything is Content.
Really?
Which is where they just do, like, it's just... kind of different random like things, whatever. I think the next one that's coming up, Marisha Ray, is going to be learning how to draw her character from Babs Tarr.
Oh, okay. Jeez. Okay. I didn't even know that was a Critical Role show. I just was like making that's so weird. Okay. That's one of those strange life things.
I loving D&D. I think we do. Heck, I could just use, honestly, the player's guide, like this Lost Mine of Phandelver, this game that I'm already kind of running. But I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it'd be interesting.
If you
fudge up your rolls, you motherfucker. So
I don't think. I mean, if we do use D&D Beyond, I don't know what the
actual
logistics
I think
of
there is a the D20 app, or I think website, whatever. I think has a thing to where you can everyone sees, like, it's just a computer generated dice roll.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Where everyone sees it. Or honestly, I mean, you could just use your own dice as long as you're not always getting a critical every time.
Well, I feel like I would be honest, because I just like failing sometimes. It's just fun.
Yeah. It makes it more fun sometimes, just messing up. Like, quick side thing. before
Okay.
we get the wrap up, whatever. They were doing the final fight with Clark. Clark, the bugbear.
Yeah.
And Sildar had rushed straight in. He just got fucked immediately and was like, I was making death saving throws for him because he got all his hit points down.
Yeah, you're basically
But the
playing
problem
as
is-
him.
Yeah, the problem is I kept on rolling for Clark and this wolf who kept on trying to attack Sildar and finish him off. I kept on failing the rolls every single time. And I was like, this is the luckiest man in the world because, like, I wasn't prepared in my campaign for him to die. And luckily, he's the dice is allowing him to live right now.
So you have to describe that, though. That's the best part, is when the DM is like, the bugbear, like, reels up its giant axe and brings it down, and then the DM rolls, and it's like, and completely whiffs it and misses.
I'm just like, and Sildar with some little, just, you know, his body just on instinct just moves to the side. Where he's just like, how do you keep on missing this? He's prone on the ground.
It could be fun, though, because, I mean, if you've played the campaign through once, playing it again, you'll have more ideas, and you have more, like, idea of when it's going to go and expansions you can do to it, so it could be really fun. But last of all, I would just like to thank you for podcasting with me today, John. I know we've actually done a normal length podcast for once. We never do this. We've never, ever. It feels short, but we've actually podcasted for an hour, so it's like...
For the normal amount of time that most people do this.
Yeah. But yeah, it was nice talking to you. I'm sorry that this was a chilled out one, but I just fancied just talking to you as a friend.
I loved just talking about D&D. It was also great because I didn't know. Yeah, I had no idea that you'd played D&D or how much you had played, and
yeah,
it's you know, just more things that we share.
It's weird. I mean, it is. You get that sometimes where you're just like, I've known you for years, but like, what is going on? Like, what is this new thing? Sometimes it doesn't work out bad, though. Sometimes it doesn't work out good, though. Sometimes you're like, I've known you for years. I did not realize you were a sexist. Now I have to ghost you forever. Like, I've had that before.
See, most of the people I know in my life that are horrible, I've immediately known how horrible they are, so it's like I'm not usually that surprised.
I have not got a good detector for that. I've got people who I'm like, this guy's so cool, and then like a year later, and I'll be like, oh no. Just that's small, like, oh no, I must ghost.
Yeah, it's like I'd rather you be like upfront and shitty so that I can decide on my own how much I'm willing to be okay with.
I love
how many arguments I want to get in with.
I love how indignant that is. Hey, if you're going to be shitty up front. Don't hide it.
Just let me know. Like, and don't be secret shitty. And then I have to find out. And then, like, it just ruins everything.
I have to move my whole life around, you know?
I have planned.
I have to stop listening to the Nerdist podcast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I never started the Nerdist podcast, so I was pretty good at that.
I have to,
but like, I mean, Baby Driver, I love that movie.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, no, I still like that movie.
I still like it, and he's not that big of a part in it.
Yeah. Well, we ended this on a downer. I love D&D, and John does too.
I love D&D as well. Also, by the way, we've mentioned it a couple of times. DNDBeyond.com is a great tool if you want to just use the character builder, even if you're not playing a D&D game, but just to get a feel of like, what are the different races and classes, and like, is this something I'd be interested in? Super cool. I'd also suggest the starter set because it's super detailed, but not too crazy detailed. Like, it's not going to overwhelm you with information. And it's very easy to just be like, hey, play part 1. If you and your group enjoyed that, keep going. If not, all right, you tried.
I think, and if anyone who is listening, we always say that because we're like SOS on the middle of an island.
I just feel like it's sent out into the void and then we don't know what happens with it.
But if anyone is listening and has got like tips for doing a D&D campaign over the internet and like ways to make it run smoother, or just if you're interested in listening to John DM a game with me and some friends of ours, that would be really cool too. John, I hope to speak to you very soon, and hopefully sooner than I spoke to you last. I'll see you in a bit, friend.